Uh-oh.
You might want to buckle up, for safety.
2319! We have a 2319!
Nobody move a muscle.
I have a very bad feeling about this.
He is coming. Cover your butt.
All right, but now it's time to get to the podcast where I get to relax and Ritz gets to exercise his vocal cords. It's time for Ritz's Ramble.
All right, well, I've been kind of holding this in because I don't know how people, react to certain things like this, but is anybody else bothered about the settlement the NFL just had with these guys that were suing the NFL over these concussions? I mean, I'll just throw numbers at you first. $675 million was the settlement for players with these neurological systems with problems with whether it's Lou Gehrig's disease or, God forbid, Parkinson's or any of these bad diseases that happen later on in life. And obviously, football might have added on to that with their head-to-head collisions, their tackles, and all of that. An additional $112 million went to the players' lawyers. So, if my math is correct, the total payout is about $870 million. $870 million goes to these players. They sue the NFL for getting hurt in a game that's physical. That's like me suing Marlboro cigarettes for getting lung cancer. It's like these guys are all of a sudden conveniently dumb. It's like when they got hurt and they hit their head and they sit on the bench and the trainers are looking at him and the guy's dizzy as can be. He can't see. But you know what? He waited all week for this game. Maybe it's his contract year and he needs to go prove himself to get more money. So he says, you know what? Screw you. I'm going to go out there and play. And then he goes back 5 years later and wonders why he had head problems. I mean, I just have such a problem with it because I just can't shake the feeling that these guys are just trying to squeeze out any more money that they can get out of the NFL because, let's face it, a lot of these guys, especially in the NFL, they don't know what to do with their money. Not that they're dumb. I'm just saying that the shelf life of an NFL player isn't as long as a baseball player, a basketball player, even a hockey player. They don't have a high shelf life, so I just can't shake the feeling that they're just trying to squeeze more money out of these guys. And I feel bad for these guys. Unfortunately, like Junior Seau, he had a problem. A lot of these guys have problems. They end up getting these diseases. They end up getting hurt. Obviously you're going to have knee problems if you're an offensive lineman. Like you're on your knees 100% of the time in the NFL, and you keep pushing and shoving. But to sue the league that made you to go back and sue them for getting hurt, I have a problem with it. It's like, is Paul George going to sue the NBA, for playing basketball? That's just one thing I can't shake. Are these guys who go and they're going to sue the NFL for laying out $870 million because now they're starting to see the repercussions of a sport that was always physical. Do you ever think maybe you might have gotten hurt in college and then you went to the NFL with an injury? Isn't that kind of your fault? I mean, were you expecting not to get hurt when you started to play football? Did you not see any injuries that were happening? Did you ever get a concussion in high school? But all of a sudden now that you have these problems later on in life, then you're going to go back and see. I mean, Dan Marino, who is obviously one of the best quarterbacks ever. He immediately put his name in, and I had such a problem with it because I was like, out of anybody, it's Dan Marino who's gonna go out and be a vocal person to kind of get behind this, and then he immediately pulled himself out because he goes, I do not want to be a plaintiff here, and I think that's smart out of Dan Marino because I think he said, look, I don't have it that bad, and a lot of these guys don't either, and I think as much as it's bad for some players who God forbid end up with Lou Gehrig's disease or any other disease or head trauma that these guys have. I think a lot of people are kind of all these retired NFL players are just kind of sitting on the couch with maybe having an ache in their leg or they maybe get headaches every now and then, or who are addicted to painkillers and now have a problem there.
Yeah.
I just going to sue the NFL to kind of see what money they can get. I just have a problem with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing for me is I can understand why they're doing it because I do feel the NFL didn't educate the players as well as they could have early on. But I think part of that is the NFL didn't know the seriousness of it at the time. So I think those two things kind of counteract, and I think a player doesn't know the limits of his body when he's motivated. I mean, I could tell you that I've hurt myself playing pickup things, and I was playing basketball with you one time. I got a concussion, didn't even know it, and I continued playing for 2 hours. So it happens. But I think the big task is going to be, say, Wes Welker, who just got his third concussion in 10 months. If he comes out of the league and then sues the NFL about concussions, that's when the hammer drops, and I'm just like, you are absolutely nuts. Because people are saying you should leave, you're going to stay, and then you're going to raise hell after you leave, and you see there's a problem. So I don't know if the NFL can come up with a way to tell players, hey, listen, you've had too many concussions, you're too injured, you got to leave. But I think that the doctors are always going to have that upper hand saying, listen, we medically cleared them, they're medically cleared for this physical contact, you can't take their career away from them. So I think that's going to end up being an argument that's going to happen. I think in maybe a year or two, the NFL is dictating when players are too hurt to continue on versus doctors saying, hey, listen, we're the medical experts. We say they can go on, and the players signing each doctor.
Yeah, and I think also, like, the problem that obviously former players are having now is that the trainers, the protocol for these concussions obviously wasn't as, I guess, severe, and they didn't go into it as much as they are now. There wasn't really a concussion protocol back then, but, you know your own body. You know what's going to happen. If something isn't right, you know. But the fact that you wanted to go out there and play, nobody was going to stop you. A lot of people talk about it now. When all these guys that are talking on game day, everyone's talking about, I'm playing no matter what, I'm playing no matter what. That's that mindset that going into that game. So if something is up with you, and you don't want to get it checked out, or you want to go out and make that next play, honestly, that's on you. Because even if you have trainers telling you, you know what, I don't think you should be doing this right now, and they go out and play anyway, that's when I have the problem. You have these guys trying to help you, and then all of a sudden you go out and play, and then you do further damage to yourself, and then you look for a paycheck later on in life. I don't think it's right.
Yeah, I listen. I agree with definitely some aspects of what you're saying. So. There you go, another edition of Ritz's Ramble, venting his frustration. So, Ritz, thank you very much for doing that and letting your opinion known. But now